They called it the cradle of civilization. But what if, buried beneath those same sun-scorched plains, lies a civilization far older than anyone dares to admit? The deserts of southern Iraq hold stories older than stone. Beneath the cracked earth of ancient Sumer, archaeologists once believed they had found humanity's beginning. The first written words, the first laws, the first gods. But every discovery since then only raised more questions. Why did the Sumerians emerge seemingly overnight, with mathematics, astronomy, irrigation, and writing already perfected? Who taught them how to track the stars with such precision that even NASA still references their measurements? And why did their own tablets speak of those who came before the kings, beings who built great cities before the flood? In 1976, a team of local workers digging near the ruins of Eridu, the city the Sumerians called the first city ever built, uncovered something they weren't supposed to find. It began as a simple excavation, ordered by the Department of Antiquities. But within weeks, the project was abruptly shut down. Records vanished. The dig site was buried again, sealed beneath military protection. The locals whispered that something had been found deep below the Sumerian layer, something that didn't belong to any known civilization. Stonework carved from an unfamiliar material, symbols that matched no language ever recorded, and bones, human-shaped but far too large. For decades, no one spoke of it. Until in the early 2000s, satellite ground-penetrating scans from private researchers showed geometric patterns buried nearly 80 feet below the known Sumerian ruins. Symmetrical lines, massive rectangles, and what looked eerily like city foundations. If those readings are real, it means one thing: that another civilization once thrived beneath the Sumerians, one that predates human history as we know it. And that revelation, if true, would rewrite everything we've ever been told about our origins. Because before the Sumerians, before the dawn of kings and empires, someone else walked these lands, someone we were never meant to remember. Every civilization has roots, a trail of primitive tools, evolving homes, shifting languages. But not Sumer. It's as if one morning around 4000 BCE, humanity simply woke up knowing everything. Agriculture, law, metallurgy, even astronomy, not developed slowly, but arrived fully formed. When archaeologists first uncovered the ruins of Uruk and Eridu, they expected to find a gradual story: mud huts turning into temples, symbols evolving into writing. Instead, they found the opposite. The earliest layers, the oldest ones, already showed organized architecture, mathematical planning, and a written system more complex than anything nearby. It was as though civilization didn't evolve there. It was planted. And strangely, the Sumerians themselves said so. Their own tablets describe a time before the kings, when those who came from the sky built cities, taught writing, and gave humans the laws of the heavens. To modern ears, it sounds like mythology, poetic exaggeration. But here's where it becomes uncomfortable. In the oldest layers beneath Sumerian temples, particularly at Eridu, Nippur, and Kish, researchers found remains of even older foundations, misaligned with the known Sumerian grid. Stones shaped in ways that predate known Mesopotamian masonry. Carvings made with tools that shouldn't have existed at the time. Archaeologists initially labeled them anomalous intrusions, a convenient term for something that doesn't fit the timeline. But the Sumerians had a word for those before them: the black-headed ones. Not referring to themselves, but to another race who dwelt in darkness before the light of the kings. Some translations call them the Watchers of the Deep. What's even stranger, geological surveys in 2013 detected a buried river system beneath southern Mesopotamia, older than the Euphrates, cutting through sediment layers dating back over 12,000 years. Along that vanished riverbed are fragments of fired brick and baked clay, far older than any known Sumerian site. If that's true, it means civilization didn't begin 6,000 years ago. It was rebuilt. Rebuilt upon the bones of something that came long before. And the deeper researchers dig, both literally and historically, the more they encounter whispers of an age erased by catastrophe. An age the Sumerians called the days before the flood. Every civilization speaks of a flood, but only the Sumerians recorded why it happened. According to their tablets, it wasn't a natural disaster. It was a reset, a cleansing of a world that had learned too much. Archaeologists once dismissed the story as allegory, a myth to explain erosion layers in Mesopotamia. Until the 1920s, when a British team excavating the city of Ur struck something extraordinary. A layer of pure clay, 8 feet thick, stretching for miles, sealing everything beneath it like a time capsule. Beneath that layer, artifacts from a completely different civilization, tools, pottery, and skeletal remains that didn't match known Sumerian genetics or craftsmanship. If the flood was merely symbolic, how did it leave behind a literal geological scar? And more importantly, who lived beneath it? The Sumerians say it was Ziusudra, the king before the flood, warned by the gods to build a vessel, a story eerily similar to Noah, thousands of years before the Bible. But here's the strange part. Ziusudra wasn't told to save animals. He was told to preserve knowledge. Blueprints of heaven and earth, one tablet reads. What kind of knowledge was so dangerous? It needed to be hidden from humanity, only to be rediscovered when the world was ready. And that question gets even darker. Because after the flood, the new Sumerian kings claimed they were guided by survivors of the old world, beings who returned from beneath the waters, not gods, not humans, something in between. When researchers translated the king's list, they noticed something impossible. The reigns of these pre-flood kings lasted thousands of years. One, Alulim of Eridu, supposedly ruled for 28,800 years. Yet his city's ruins are real, physically excavated. How could a myth leave behind bricks, inscriptions, and walls still standing today? And then there's the anomaly no one talks about, the temple alignment problem. Several of these oldest ziggurats align not with the modern magnetic north, but with a previous pole position, suggesting they were built before Earth's axis last shifted, more than 12,000 years ago. Coincidence? Or proof that the Sumerians were inheritors, not inventors, of a lost scientific tradition? If so, where did that knowledge really come from? And why, even after the flood, do the Sumerians repeatedly reference something buried, something beneath the earth, where the stars once touched the ground? If you look at a modern map of southern Iraq, Eridu is nothing more than a scar in the desert. Wind, sand, and silence. But 7,000 years ago, this place was called the foundation of the world. The Sumerians believed their gods descended here first. They built the first temple, the Abzu, house of the deep waters. Archaeologists assumed that meant a shrine near a river, until they began digging. At just 30 feet below the surface, they found 7 separate temples, each built on top of the last, like a civilization endlessly rebuilding itself after something catastrophic. But the deeper they dug, the stranger it became. The 8th layer, where the ground turned darker, wasn't Sumerian at all. Its walls were made of stone so hard It couldn't have been carved with Bronze Age tools. Even more baffling, there were traces of vitrification, a glass-like fusion of the stone surface, only possible through intense heat, the kind generated by modern machinery or unknown technology. When they reached this level, excavation suddenly stopped. Officially, they said it was due to structural instability. Unofficially, the team was ordered to seal the site. No photos, no further reports. Yet, a few grainy images leaked. They showed what looked like a corridor leading deeper into rock, perfectly symmetrical, geometric, illuminated by what appeared to be phosphorescent mineral lines running through the walls. The ancient texts called this place the Abzu, the subterranean realm where Enki, the god of wisdom, stored the blueprints of creation. To the Sumerians, it was both a physical place and a forbidden one. Only priests of the first light could descend into it, and none returned unchanged. What's more, modern geophysical scans in 2018, led by a joint Iraqi-European project, revealed massive cavities below the site, far larger than any known chamber or tomb. Rectangular voids, aligned to magnetic north, not natural caves. When asked for details, the researchers' data was redacted. No explanation was ever released. Why would a dig site with no military significance suddenly become classified? Why are the world's oldest temples sitting atop something engineered beneath them? And why did the Sumerians insist that the knowledge of the gods was hidden underground, sealed beneath the very place their civilization began? Maybe it's all coincidence. Or maybe Eridu isn't just where civilization started. Maybe it's where something ancient was buried. Something still there, something waiting. When you connect all the fragments, the flood layers, the sealed chambers, the ancient texts, a disturbing pattern emerges. The Sumerians didn't just write myths, they documented a memory of contact. Across hundreds of clay tablets, the same figures appear again and again, beings described as bright as fire, descending in whirlwinds, teaching mankind the secrets of life and law. They weren't worshipped as unreachable deities, but treated as teachers, engineers, architects. And every time they departed, the texts repeat a haunting phrase. They descended into the Abzu, and the light of the world dimmed. For centuries, this was thought to be pure symbolism, until scientists noticed something strange. In 2020, a team using ground-penetrating radar across the Persian Gulf, near the supposed mouth of the ancient Euphrates, detected a vast geometric anomaly stretching nearly 12 miles long. Perfectly straight lines, intersecting at right angles, buried beneath layers of silt and ocean sediment. The shapes resembled not ruins, but power grids. Here's the twist. Those lines matched diagrams found on 6,000-year-old Sumerian tablets, layouts describing energy from the deep, used to give light to the cities of the gods. Coincidence? Or had the Sumerians known something about Earth's natural energy fields? Something we're only rediscovering now. Then, there's the frequency paradox. Acoustic studies of ancient ziggurats, especially the one at Ur, revealed that when wind passes through certain chambers, it produces a deep humming tone around 110 Hz. Modern research shows this frequency directly affects the human brain, inducing altered states of consciousness. Could that humming have been part of ancient rituals to communicate with something beyond the physical world? Or was it designed that way? Because here's the most chilling part. When comparing ancient Mesopotamian ziggurat blueprints to the newly scanned underground layouts in Eridu, Researchers found the proportions identical, as if both were built from the same design manual millennia apart. But the builders after the flood claimed they didn't invent it. They said they were merely reconstructing what was lost. And maybe they were right. If the Abzu, that vast underground realm, still lies beneath the desert, sealed beneath thousands of years of sand and secrecy, then what happens when modern technology finally opens it? What if beneath the ruins of Eridu lies not myth, but memory, a forgotten remnant of a civilization that once walked the earth, vanished, and might one day rise again? The Sumerians called them the Shining Ones, guardians of knowledge, masters of life and death, the ones who promised to return when humanity reaches the stars again. And today, as our satellites orbit, as our machines pierce the ground deeper than ever before, the same soil that buried their temples begins to hum once more. Is it coincidence? Or the awakening of something ancient? Something that was never truly gone? Maybe the story of the Sumerians was never about gods, or aliens, or myths carved in stone. Maybe it was a warning that every time humanity reaches too far, builds too high, something pulls us back beneath the sand. A cycle written not in faith, but in geology. Creation, destruction, rebirth. The ruins of Eridu whisper that we've been here before, that our world, our entire history, might just be the latest chapter in a book rewritten countless times. And perhaps the reason we still dream of gods descending from the sky is because we remember them, not in scripture, not in science, but in something deeper, a buried code that hums in every civilization that rises again. And one day, when the last layer of earth above Eridu finally crumbles, we may not just uncover the origins of humanity, but the memory of what we were before we were human. Until then, the desert keeps its silence, and the world below keeps breathing,